Hello and welcome to our first global webinar on sourcing flowers and plants from Turkey, which is brought to you by the Ornamental Plants and Products Exporters Union, Turkish Flowers, and our own publication, Floriculture International Magazine. My name is Tim Briarcliffe, and I am Secretary General of AIPH, which is the International Association of Horticultural Producers. We are the world's champions for the power of plants, and our members are associations representing growers across the world. I am speaking to you today from Turkey's Izmir Fair Convention Centre, and we're very thankful to them for hosting us here today. During today's event, we will answer questions about why Turkey is such an exciting option for buyers sourcing flowers and plants from abroad. We have 4 experts in the field ready to provide information about trading in Turkey. Last but not least, we have an expert to discuss socially responsible sourcing and how to capitalize on sustainably grown flowers and plants from the Republic of Turkey. So first of all, some housekeeping and some technical issues. On the right hand of your screen, you will find an orange arrow. If you click it, you will see a drop down which will appear, which will allow you to adjust your camera and access the question areas and so on. Please do feel free to type in questions in the chat area throughout the session, and we will do our best to answer these during the roundtable session at the end of the webinar. You can also find all the information about our guests in the handout section to the right, which you can also download the different handouts which are available here. Now to start with, I am going to welcome our special guest of honor, Mr. İsmail Yilmaz, who's chairman of the Ornamental Plants and Product Exporters Union. He's president of Turkish Flowers. Very fortunate that İsmail is here with me today, and we welcome him to the webinar. İsmail is a flower grower himself, and although we were going to film him on his own farm, we understand that as the president of the association, he must be impartial. So we have done a film of him, pre-recorded his welcome address at the Turkish Flowers office. Please can we have the welcome address from Mr. İsmail Yilmaz.
Değerli sektör temsilcileri, süs bitkileri ve mamulleri ihracatçıları birliği adına hepinizi saygıyla selamlıyorum. Türkiye'den süs bitkileri nasıl tedarik edilir, ne ithal edilir konulu webinarımıza hepiniz hoş geldiniz. Türkiye süs bitkileri sektöründe son yıllarda hem üretim hem ihracat açısından büyük bir gelişim gösterdi. Ülkemiz iklimsel ve coğrafi avantajlarının yanında dinamik bir firma yapılanmasına da sahip. Sektörümüzde 300'den fazla ihracatçı firmamız var. Sektör ihracatımız her yıl artıyor ve 2021 yılında yaklaşık olarak 150 milyon dolarlık bir ihracat gerçekleştirdik. Birlik olarak Türkiye'nin süs bitkileri sektörünü üretimden ihracata kadar her açıdan destekliyoruz. Yaptığımız tanıtım çalışmaları ve projelerle her yıl vizyonumuz dünya ile entegre olarak daha da güçlendiriyoruz. Önümüzde sektörümüzün büyümesi için büyük hedeflerimiz var. Bugün yaptığımız bu çalışma ile tüm dünyadaki sektör paydaşlarına sektörümüzü daha iyi tanıtmak ve yeni işbirlikleri yaratmak istiyoruz. Türkiye'yi ve sektörümüzü daha yakından tanımak isteyen herkese her zaman kapımız açık. Sizi sektörümüzle ilgili sunumlarla baş başa bırakırken herkes için başarılı bir webinar diliyorum.
So thank you, Mr. Yilmaz, for your presentation and your inspiring welcoming words. Now it's time for our next guest, Mr. Umut Sakarya, who is a general manager of Yalova-based landscaping company, Gardensa. He's also a member of the board of Turkish Flowers. Please can we go over now to Umut? Please, if you turn on your camera and microphone. There we go. Thank you, Umut. Over to you.
I welcome all the participants, and it's one of the earliest spring day in Istanbul. I will share some facts and figures about our horticulture industry here in Turkey. It was all taught us during our childhood that Turkey is on the crossroad of continents. Now I'm in this industry, I'm facing this. This is really very true. And in terms of not only the geographically on a crossroad, but also it's a crossroad for the climate. So when we look at the hardness map, in Turkey, there are 6 zones available. So this means we have a huge variety of an option that we can produce all over the year. It's a year-round production of good varieties of plants and flowers. So this gives us a chance that here in Turkey there are more than 3,500 endemic plants, and mainly it will give us a good opportunity for the flowering and for the horticultural industry. And for a decade, our horticultural industry and nursery production value is over $1 billion US, and we are operating on 55,000 of decars with an 80,000 of direct and more than 500,000 of indirect employment. This is a split of the production areas and also the unit numbers that were produced last year. So 73% of the land is dedicated to outdoor plants, and 23% is for the cut flowers, 3% for the indoor, and 1% for the bulbs. And you can see the production numbers on my screen. We have more than 1,500 producers, but our union is covering 500 of them. But last year, in 2017, we developed quality standards with the Turkish Standard Institute, which covers from the beginning to the end, which includes naming, tagging, and defining their shapes, defining their universal sizings. So many of our producers are right now be a part of these standards, and they are producing according to these rules. We assume that with some cross studies, our consumption in horticultural materials or plants in Turkey is around 10 euros, which is very below when you compare it with the European Union major markets or the North America. When we are producing these plants, we add quite enormous percentage of local contribution and local value add, which is assumed that 95%, which means that our producers start from their young plants to the finished products here in Turkey, and our major markets internally is as like in everywhere, the florist shops, supermarkets, wholesalers, and garden centers for the retail. But also we have a amenity market, which is driven and which gives a huge impact by the municipalities and the central government for the last decade. Right now, it is assumed that it should be, it was driven by the governmental purchases at the beginning of the 2010 by the municipalities, but right now it is driven by the private amenity market. As our president Mr. Ismail told us that we have our union was established in 1999. We have the members of more than 500, but 300 is more active, which covers our total exports. So we are promoting the plant industry here in Turkey, and we try them to reach the global market, starting from their nearbys, and we try to achieve a sustainable and a competitive export industry. Our last year's export value was around $150 million, and we achieved this number by exporting to 79 countries. This is the split of our export plant groups. You can see the difference 2020 and 2021. The major one comes from the live plants, and cut flowers is the second major category. And we have the mosses and we have the flower bulbs. So we have an increase more than $40 million when you compare to the 2022. These are our major markets in the top countries. Of course, the Netherlands is the leading one, and the former Russian countries, the Uzbekistan, Azerbaijan, Georgia, Turkmenistan, Kazakhstan. Also, we have a good advantage in terms of logistics, in terms of the climate, in terms of the our construction companies also has a good advantage because they are operating there and they are making turnkey projects, so they will purchase their procurements here in Turkey. When we're talking about the cut flowers, indoor, outdoor, and the mosses and reds, what we are talking, of course, it's not the plants that we are here, but these are the major ones. But when we're talking about the cut flowers, it's not limited with this, but these are the measures, top leading products. And outdoor, of course, outdoor we cannot list it here, but we can only make it a categorization with the measures. Categories are deciduous trees, conifers, shrubs, climbers, perennials, annuals, bedding plants, bulbs, and Mediterranean plants is a we have an advantage because of we have a huge number of the plantation area in the south part of the Turkey, and we have also good, and there is a promising category of the western mosses. This is to give an idea to you. This is the import of the Turkey. You can see that we are giving a positive balance when you compare to exports and imports. So our import numbers of the last year was $53 million, and again here Netherlands is the first company. First country, and it follows by the Italy, France, China, Spain, Germany, Costa Rica, and Kenya. Costa Rica, Kenya, and Netherlands also includes the cut flowers, but the other ones are mainly the outdoor plants. What can I say as a ramp up? These are the figures. Turkey has a really advantage in there is a, and now we are facing the second generation in our companies. and the companies are continuously investing their business in terms of land, in terms of machinery, in terms of their mother plants for variety production, and there is a strong, we can say that there is a strong potential for growth in our horticultural industry here in Turkey. We are facing the advantage of the proximity to the major markets here, and year-round production gives us continuous satisfaction to our clients. This is the major issues that I can say, but remember that in the webinar set, you can download the catalog and you can reach the major exporter companies, which includes also the communication and also their major product categories. And if you have any question, any further information, you can contact directly to our union. We can here to serve you, serve our producers, and also I'm waiting your questions.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Umut. Really appreciate you sharing that information. While you're still there was one question I noticed that came in. I was asking about whether there is production of roses and peonies in Turkey. Do you know whether there is much production of roses and peonies in Turkey?
Yes, there is. We have also some major companies which are operating with the breeders also, which is including the novelty ones, especially in the Marmara region. You can find also the bare root ones or in the pot ones. Not only the generic forms of the roses, but you can also, our clients can also find the new varieties which has obliged to the labeling, not labeling, but yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. That's great, and we really appreciate your presentation. And it's good to see these details. It's interesting to see the export markets as well, and the importance of your neighbouring countries, as well as the Netherlands, which takes the primary area, as well as countries where you are importing from. So thank you for sharing that information and for joining us on the webinar today.
Oh, thank you.
Well, there's a lot for us to cover, but first we have a video for you, a short video from our silver sponsor. And our silver sponsor is the Landscape Istanbul Fair. This is a trade event taking place in Istanbul between the 13th and the 16th of October later this year. Rene, please can you play the video? Thank you for that video from the Istanbul Fair. I encourage you to come along to that if you have your availability in October. Now, it gives me great pleasure to welcome our third guests today. This is Mr. Azzam Shaffi. He is the International Account Manager at Royal Flora Holland.
Today, I hope that we can give you some idea what happened last period in Flora Holland, and also what happened in different area because of the war. I think it affect a lot of our business. My presentation, I will start to just a moment. First, I thank you, Mrs. Good. She sent me the information. Is very helpful for us and for me to know what happened exactly in Turkey. And we can see that the cut flower is very important issue in Turkey. What I can see here also, the indoor and outdoor plant is the big part of the business in Turkey at the moment. Thank you again, Guslan. And I'd like to show you the situation of the figure what we have here in the crop in Flora Holland from Turkey the last year. What you can see, we have in around 6 million stems at the moment to 21, 8 million stems. That is, okay, that's very good. But what I can see here is a lot of Dianthus barbatus, a lot of Dianthus. If you can see the figures, is around 50% of the total amount of the total stems what we receive. And that sometime, if we have a problem with the prices in the two crop, that means affect the total prices what we get from Turkey. And sometimes we see some negative issue because you see that this very important two crop. You can see there also a lot of crops, but still we have to improve and to have to more from this crop. You can see it. You have good prices, but still the quantity is very small. I will show you also compare Turkey. You can see what we get from Italy and what we get from Spain. From Italy, around 20, we get around 46 million stems, and from Spain, I think 34. And if you see the 21, around 56 million stems from Italy, and also around 25 million stems from Spain. Is a little bit different because we have there a big roses grower, Alea roses, and he stopped because he find another business. If he will do, he have another business. That is why you see the difference between 20 and 21. But what I like to show you here, that you see that the crop is a lot of different crops, and also the quantity is not so like what we see in Turkey is two crops, Dianthus barbatus and Dianthus is the more or less 50% of the total what we receive. And that's something what we have to think about it, please. We have to get more crops. We have to have a good contact with breeders to find out which kind of crops what we can work with it in the futures. In Turkey, you have a lot of opportunity. If we look at the grower from Kenya or from another area to have to fly, in Turkey, you don't have to fly. You have to use the trucks, and that is something, at least the cost is not the same, and the availability also is not the same. We have a lot of growers from Africa in the period of Valentine to have space to send to us the flower. But in your case, it's easy to send, and that's something what, you have a lot of opportunity there in Turkey to grow with us. And that's something what we hope in the future we can see. That is more or less what happened in what I can tell you about two sheets. I hope that we can improve some of the variety what we see here, because the atmosphere and climate are the same, more or less, and you can maybe find out how we can grow with this, get more variety from Turkey. That is the what I like to show here, the important still important country for us. That is, you can see Kenya, Ethiopia, Israel, Belgium. That is the top 10 what we have, and you see that Italy is and Spain in the top 10. I hope that next year I see Turkey in the top 10 of the quantity what we receive, what we will receive. And that's very important. That is also the part of the export country what we export. Germany now on the top, United Kingdom is the second, and that is very important issue. And we hope that the problem in Russia and Ukraine will solve quickly. Then we can continue with our business, because the effect business really hard. I go to give you idea. The last period, because of the problem in Russia, that most of the grower here in Holland have, of course, a problem with the gas cost and the transport cost, and most of part of the growers close the heaters, and you see that the quantity also what we receive for some crops like chrysanthemums and lentils, this mainly go to Russia, is not the same quantity what we received last year. And the last period, I think, will last around 10% from total quantity what normally we have to receive. Because yeah, you have the important days at the moment, and but we see the quantity is less. And of course, the effect of the prices also, and you see the prices also less, around between, yeah, some crops 5%, another crop 10%, depend of the which crop we have. And that's something what we hope, if you see that normally we send around 200 million euro a year to Russia, and that times, yeah, got something, but not the same quantity. And of course, the ruble at the moment is not in good positions. And also the SWIFT for around 7 banks, very important banks, is already closed, and that makes a lot of problem for the transfer money in dollar of euro from Russia to Holland of opposite, and that make for our buyers here is really a terrible period. And we hope that next year, of maybe soon as possible, the problem will fix it. I hope that that we what we see also, be attention please, of the quality what we receive from Turkey. Care about the transport and cold chain is very important issue what I have mentioned. We have a team, they try to help you, to give you feedback, daily feedback about the quality and about what happened with shipments. And I hope that we can improve more in the quality and in the cold chain in the coming period. And I hope that also we can choose more product, and we can continue with good contact with the breeders to find what happened and what is new on the market at the moment, what we can also maybe get the new variety in the market. That's what I can say to you, and because I know that we have a 10 minutes limit. Thank you for listening to me. If you have any question, please, you can ask. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shaffi. Thank you. And yes, I repeat what he said, that if you have any questions, please do ask them in the question. We will keep an eye on those. But thank you very much for giving us your time today, Mr. Shaffi, and giving us food for thought in there about product range and supply volumes and the customer base in Turkey as well. So thank you very much for sharing this information with us, and giving, yes, definitely some ideas and things to be considered by Turkish industry for the future. Thank you very much. Now we will be staying within the trading hub of Royal Flora Holland with our next guest, Mr. Tahsin de Buck, and he has a wealth of experience selling to traditional wholesale and European retailers and sourcing flowers and plants worldwide. He represents second generation Turkish Dutch, and his parents contributed mainly to the growth of Dutch horticulture. So he is able to cross over between the two countries and understand between the two. So we're pleased to welcome him. Please, can you, yes, there we go. I can see you now. Thank you for joining and welcome to the webinar. I'm going to just ask you some questions and feel free just to discuss these issues together. So thank you for taking a break in your busy pre-Easter schedule to join us. And we just have some questions regarding the opportunities and the challenges in sourcing flowers and plants from Turkey. So first of all, what is it that makes Turkey such an interesting option for sourcing flowers and plants from?
Good afternoon. Yeah, let me say, first of all, I think they have a very good benefits of the climate. The climate is very good. They have a big scala of different varieties what they can grow over there, and that is a very good thing what can have progress. But on the other side, what we see from Turkey, that we see a lot of spray carnation and carnation, and I think there are so many other products that they can grow over there, but I think that they miss a little bit the knowledge and the support from Holland to progress this system. Because if I go to, for example, to Antalya, there is mainly 80% of the nurseries, it's spray carnation and carnation. And I visit some other growers, they have so many beautiful products. And I think they can do so many more things than only this items. And also, I think for the climate, they can have a very big opportunity in young plants. Because we have a lot of nurseries in Holland, they can use a lot of plants and even the foliage of the plants to grow the products. So there's a lot of opportunities because of the climate, and to be honest, also with the labor cost, as we compare it with the rest of Europe. That is the mainly things what is a big profit, I think.
Okay, thank you. So that's interesting. Yes, we saw in the previous presentation that the vast majority of the imports into the Netherlands are carnations, and as you say, there's no reason why we can't be growing other things. It's just a case of trying it, I guess, because the other conditions are there in place, and also the infrastructure is in place as well for supplying the market. So are you suggesting that they're with a bit more input from experienced growers of other crops in the Netherlands, for example, then Turkish growers, there's nothing stopping them really from developing these other areas?
What I think can be very interesting for the growers in Turkey, because I do also some research when I be there, and I think that a lot of growers have no any idea about the daily market prices. And a couple of months ago, we started a new project from Kenya, and you must see that if you have every week products in a good scala, the prices goes up and down in the market. And also now we see it's Russia, then it's from the Corona. But if I compare like Russia, then I see the cut flowers from Russia, I think it's 50% présence. It is about 25% of roses. We talk about 20% of foliage. So the rest, it's a very small scala, what is exported to Russia. So I think there's always something. But I think the main problem is that if the growers know they can have very good prices for the products, then they are very more motivated than they are right now. Because I see 2 years ago, they have a product, for example, Crospedia with big heads. The market prices these days can be around 50 cents if you have the good varieties. And I'm pretty sure that no one of the growers have ever 50 cents for the products. And the main problem is that the brokers from Turkey, they make the big money. It's not the growers. So it's very important that the growers get an honest price for the products, because they do all the work and all the things, but they miss the knowledge and the price values of the products. So it could be very interesting in the near future that the Royal Flora Holland share this knowledge for the growers. Then they are more motivated what they can get for the prices, what they grow. And then you will see if they make, for example, like products like the ammonium or other things, they can have very good prices for it. But I think a lot of growers don't even know, they don't even know what they can get for the products. And that is a very big problem, I think.
Okay. So, well, that's a good suggestion. Maybe an area where the association over here can help out in linking with the information from Royal Flora Holland to share that information more widely and make those opportunities.
If you see, for example, now we see there is a war against Russia and Ukraine. And all the world, every day, looking on the prices on the world market about the oil. People say the oil is going up and down on the world market. Everybody knows that. Why is it in these days possible that the growers in Turkey have not a daily right price that you can see, hey, this product can bring me this money? How is that possible in 2022? I cannot understand it. Because the growers, they deserve to get good prices. They make the products.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Mr. Shaffi, were you trying to say something there?
Yeah, I just I heard that Flora Holland have to do something about that, and I like it to share that we already done last 2 years, I think, with the Turkish flower group. We made a lot of what you call a mark report, and we'll share with them. And I think we share about more than 20 of 25 crop with prices, with history of the crop last 3 years, what happened in the crop. Of course, that you have to pay for it, but the informations are available if the grower need it, like to get it. That's what I like.
Well, thank you for that. Maybe there is some scope for a bit more discussion with the association about that. So thank you for your comment on that. You've told us, Tahsin, about in the past about, well, when you've looked at flower farms in Turkey, the discussion has not been so much about quality. That's been okay, but it's been about improving efficiency of the Turkish supply chain. And what do you think is needed to achieve a more agile supply chain that's responsive to retail and traditional wholesale customers in Europe? And maybe this involves the need for certification, for example, but what are your thoughts about what the industry needs to do on that?
Well, I think a grower is responsible for the quality of the flowers and the growing process. But I think what the growers miss at the moment is the knowledge. They have to understand that a lot of retail markets, they work with certification of the flowers. And I buy around 33 years flowers on the clocks every day. So we know that if you are a buyer, you have to see in the clock front of the clocks if it have the right certification to sell it, resell it in the market. And that means if they have not the right certification, the buyers are not allowed to buy this product because the supermarkets, they need the right certification for the flowers. And if the growers don't know this because they're growing flowers, they miss a part of the knowledge, what is so important for them. So if they know how to work, how to handle, and also with the paperwork with certification, it can be help them so much more than what they do now. Because if you don't have the right papers, yeah, you missed a lot of progress, yeah, and buyers.
Okay, thank you. So, do you feel that there are many growers who are not certified and therefore they are not getting that opportunity, or do you think this is changing in Turkey?
I think it starts to be giving the growers the right information that they are really understand what they need. Because growing is growing and they grow very good and they understand. And sometimes you have to help the growers to tell them what are the wishes from the buyers, maybe in cut stadia of flowers or length, or better make all the lengths on the same side. Those things are small problems, but the main thing is that they have to understand that you need this certification to be a partner on the retail market. If you don't have this retail market, then you miss them. Because you have a lot of wholesalers also in Holland, they buy these flowers also directly from Turkey. And they will learn them what you need to get these papers, because they need it also to resell the flowers. But I think it starts to tell the growers and inform them what you are need to be successful. Because
yeah,
it's something about paperwork, not more than that.
Yeah, and so schemes like MPS and Global Gap and these kind of certifications are what growers should be looking towards. And I know sometimes they can appear to be too much paperwork or changing the way you do business, but in effect, it's generally good practice that you are just required to document and to demonstrate to. And also it's important for demonstrating a sustainable, proactive industry within Turkey, I guess. But effectively, are you saying it is like a license to be able to trade more?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And also one important thing what I want to tell some people from Turkey, because I visit some nurseries, they have beautiful ranunculus. And as you know, it's a quite sensitive flower. And the growers, they have a good product on the right time. Of course, it costs money to send them by air cargo, but for sure, they get the prices for it. If you send it by truck, it takes too long time. The quality don't keep that long in the trucks. So if you make more money to transport it by cargo, but the quality is good, then you get also the best prices, because we have to understand that in the winter time we have a lot of import flowers, and in the summer you have a lot of Dutch flowers, summer flowers. But in the summer we don't need so much import flowers because we have so many of them. But it's so important that we have it in the winter months until the summer. And they have the climate to bring that flowers and get very good prices for it.
Okay, so that is useful advice, yes, so that it's worth paying the extra for the air freight logistics to get, because of the better quality that will be achieved in a time when the market is really demanding that product.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. And what about in terms of the flowers for supermarkets? Do you think Turkish growers need to become more aware of the Flower Watch program that supermarkets collaborate with? And what does Flower Watch's inspection of imported Turkish flowers look like? What could Turkish growers learn about this?
Now, let me be clear, it's not only the Turkish flower, it's mainly all flowers. But of course, if big companies, they have inspectors of the flowers. And that means when the flowers are after the buying process, they take some samples out of the flowers. They make on every buying, they make pictures. And sometimes they check some flowers, they cut the stems, look to what kind of products are in the flower, protection items, and they check everything. So if there's something wrong, they send a report to who is responsible with, and they say, hey, this grower used this product, what is not allowed. Sorry, these items are not allowed, what is in the flowers. They can find it out. They work with laboratorium, they work with visual, with pictures, with videos. So everything is monitored, everything. That is very clear.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Thank you. And Royal Flora Holland have recently warned about the cost of living going up, and of course the consumers spending maybe less over the coming months, the costs rising with logistics and energy costs. In that challenging business environment, do you think there is a particular or makes a stronger business case for sourcing flowers from Turkey?
Of course, because the way now things going in Holland, I think that I cannot say it exactly by numbers, but I think that around 50% of all the growers, and even really big growers, what I know them for many years, they cannot continue like this. And I can explain you a story about last year. There was a grower who was growing tomatoes in the nursery, and he made a contract for several years for the gas price. And during the year, the prices went so sky high that he stopped growing the tomatoes and he rent the nursery to another grower to get the price for the gas. So these things happens. And if the growers put the temperature down, you can see it directly in the quality of the flowers. If you be an expert in flowers, I can see it in one split second how it's growing. And it's not even the heat, but also in the summertime when you have big professional growers of roses and it's too warm, you have to cool down the roses. Because if you don't cool down the roses, then he starts to be also very small. You need really climate control in the nurseries. That is very important.
So it sounds like this could be a real ideal time for Turkish growers to be looking at developing that market, and for buyers in Europe and elsewhere to be looking at the Turkish suppliers who are progressing on these areas. So if there is a progression on things like certification and understanding on the product ranges that can be grown, then there is a market waiting to be taken in many ways for Turkish producers. What about the final point is about logistics and transport costs and logistics. What needs to happen to achieve a smoother, more well-oiled logistics for flowers and plants from Turkey?
Now, what I think is to that we have so many profit about a good product on the market, especially now because a lot of growers cannot handle this, that they have to make a way for the growers from Turkey to help them to get the flowers in a normal price way from Turkey to Holland. And as you see, a lot of people, they help with subsidies and all these things to help these people. But when the market like Flora Holland, they can help them with logistics, and how it has to go exactly, I don't know, but it will be very good if they can help them in a way that they get the flowers, and maybe they have to make another cost program for the growers to get the flowers fresh on time, several times a week from Turkey to Holland. That is what I have to think, what I have to do to help them.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Well, it's been really fascinating discussing all this with you, and your knowledge of both sides, if you like, has really been helpful in this discussion. So thank you so much for Mr. de Buck. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us. We really appreciate it. And again, I'm open to people if you have questions. Let me just check in case there's any specific questions. Pejman Azadi from Iran, he is asking about what examples of certificates needed for retailers. And we mentioned already MPS and Global Gap. Is there anything else specific you would mention if you were producing in Turkey that you say, if you want to supply the European retailers, you should definitely get this certificate?
Well, I think what they have to do, that is one thing what I want to say is, you have all the year, the supermarkets work with programs, week programs, every week. And it will be very good if the growers, or even a manager of a group of growers, discussed with these people from the supermarket, retailers, say, hey, what you use in this time of year? Because one speaker, they told us they bring so much Dianthus barbatus, and that's true. Sometimes it's too much. But if you have a program, what you can bring week by week by week, and you have a schedule with supermarkets, then you don't need all the time also directly the clocks, because the clocks, it's an instrument that you know where is your value approximate. But if you have a good price from a good supermarket retail companies, they can say, hey, we can pay you for this price. But if you only be, when you need the clocks all the time to bring your products, you have to think very good, is there not another way that you can sell your flowers? And I think you need people in Holland to cooperate together to find the right people from the supermarkets. And they can tell you, we need this certification, we need this certification, because it's not all the same one, but you can inform them also.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Something. Can I add something?
Yes. Sure. Yes.
Okay. Because I hear something about transport. The Flora Holland have to help here about transport. I don't know which kind of transport we would like it to help for it, because we have what you can see in my presentation, that we have in Kenya and Ethiopia and all the country, and a million of ton of flower yearly, and we don't help these growers in transport. Transport is something what I think is very available in Turkey. And I saw with our experience with the group, what we work with them, is the transport is come to us most of the time in a nice way. I think, and that's something what the grower know it when we have the pallet and when we have it to the when he can send it to us. But I think in the future, what we have also, we can make some herb, but I think you can manage it also in Turkey, that all the grower can go to the herb and deliver the flower there with some quality control and some very good cool chain and pre-cooling, and after that put it in the truck in a nice way and send it to Holland, gas of Holland, of England, I don't know, Russia, anyway, but that is things what I think you have to do there. Second, a clock last year in the Corona time, I think the clock was very, very important assortment for a place for most of the grower worldwide. And in this period of the Corona, I think that is the perfect years, and the people know what mean the clock, and the prices was really very, for the good quality, very high and very good. And I think the clock turnover increased around 25 or 30%, and the prices was also the same. So I think this clock is very important place to be, and the clock is something what you have to. If we don't have the clock, I think the price wise worldwide will be not the same. The clock is really important to know the prices, and most of the buyer of growers have to see the clock to see which kind of prices you have in this week of this period, and then you can do your business. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, well, I'm going to close off that discussion now because there were some other questions about sustainability issues, which we'll cover in the next presentation. But thank you so much again for joining us for this presentation, and we appreciate that very much. Thank you. Right, now we have taken some of the questions as we go, because I think that was the best way to do it while it was all fresh in our minds. But we're going to move to our last speaker now, is Dr. David Bek. And Dr. Bek is a reader in sustainable economics at Coventry University in the UK. And he is going to explain to us why sustainably grown flowers and plants matter. And I believe this follows on very nicely from some of the points we've just been discussing. So welcome, David, and over to you.
Thank you very much, Tim. Okay, well, good afternoon, everybody. It's a real pleasure to be invited to this particular event, and also a great pleasure to learn a great deal more about the Turkish flower industry and the opportunities and challenges that the industry faces. In my presentation, I'm going to be talking about issues related to sustainability and how that slippery word that many people understand in very different ways will actually be impacting upon the future of the Turkish flower industry and the cut flower industry generally. And indeed, some of those issues and questions were touched on in the last discussion that Tim was just coordinating. So yes, sustainability, what are we talking about in this? Well, I'm just throwing a few tasters here on the introductory slide. We've got a farmer in the Western Cape of South Africa standing in his water reservoir in 2018, where he should actually have had water going above his head, but there was a 3-year drought. So the reason for including this particular picture is to bring home the realities of climate change for producers. And then on the right, we have a picture from a horticultural producer, again in South Africa, where they just got a slide up saying how they're focusing upon non-spray methods of looking after their produce and using integrated pest management, because this helps to get us to be thinking about issues of how we produce our goods more sustainably. So in this presentation, what I'm going to do is quickly talk about what we actually mean by sustainability, to discuss the factors driving the sustainability agenda in horticulture, then to talk about how science is helping to identify hotspots, i.e. problems in the sustainability agenda for producers in the flower industry, and also quickly to talk about some of the solutions that are being hatched and put into effect throughout the industry, and talk about how floriculture is responding to these trends, and of course, what do we need to do going forward. So what is sustainability? Well, sustainability is a word that's become very, very well known in the last few years. But if you went back 50 years, it was a word that was hardly used at all. And it really came to prominence in the late 1980s, when, after a couple of decades of quite strong environmental activism around the world, when activists were noting the impacts of human activity through agriculture and industry and urbanization upon the natural environment, and were noticing damages to biodiversity, pollution of air, pollution of water, loss of species, there were beginning to be real concerns about the impact of humans on the world we live in, and indeed, how those impacts could actually affect the human race going forward. Would we be doing so much damage we were making our own future in question? And in 1987, there was a very important report published through one of the UN bodies, the World Commission on the Environment and Development, who produced this report called Our Common Future. And they included the definition of sustainability that is the most commonly used, which is meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. And this is, as I say, the most commonly used definition of the term sustainability. It's a very human focused way of looking at things, because it's all about the ability for our own race, the humans, to keep meeting their needs in the future. But that was then seen in 1987 as a significant challenge going forward. This was a time when climate change was beginning to be spotted by scientists, and therefore concern was really raising. Now, when we talk about sustainability, often in a business context, we talk about the 3 Ps: people, planet, and of course, profit. Because if you're in business, if you're managing a global economy in a country, you have to consider how you actually maintain profit margins in order to be able to keep the economy ticking along. And the point I really want to emphasize here is that sustainability is the point at which we are meeting the needs of all 3 of those things: people, the planet, and profit. Because if you're not meeting all of those things, then your system is not sustainable. It will not last into the future. Yes, you can have a business activity that makes money. That will be good for your business in the short term. You may have a sustainability objective that's good for people, but it's not good for business or the planet, and that's not sustainable. Or you can just have an environmental initiative which doesn't help people or profit. And again, that's not truly sustainable. So all I'd say here is, please, when talking about sustainability, you need to think about all 3 of those things. Sustainability isn't just about environmental initiatives. What's been changing? Well, there has been a lot of change in the whole sustainability debate in the last few years, particularly the last 2 or 3 years. And last summer, the Western summer, we had the report come out from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, which was a very important report and a very alarming report as well, because they put out the physical science basis for climate change. And for the first time, we're able to state without any doubt that climate change is happening and it is caused by human activity. And it was going to be having and is having impacts on the world, all parts of life, the atmosphere, the biosphere, the ice sheets and so forth, that are really quite considerable. And this was a very important report, and they stated that we need urgent action to actually cut greenhouse gas emissions. And they produced data to back this up, scary data, such as concentrations of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere haven't been at these levels for over 2 million years. The last decade is warmer than any period for 125,000 years. Sea levels are rising incredibly fast. So a lot of very alarming data backed by thousands of the world's leading scientists. Well, what does all this mean for horticulture? Well, it's obviously, if you're growing things, changes in climate are incredibly important and impactful. And if you look at these maps of the world, what they show is the extent to which average temperatures have changed in the world in about the last 150 years. And obviously, any color that's any shade of red means the temperatures have gone up. Any shade of blue means the temperatures have gone down. And as you can see, there's very, very little blue. It's all about increases in temperature, quite significant changes in temperature. And I'm sure you can, those of you who are in Turkey can look at the map and spot where Turkey is. And certainly what information I've been reading indicates that Turkey is suffering from increasing problems with climate change. And particularly if you're growing outdoors, this is highly problematic because what you can actually grow is affected by temperatures, it's affected by rainfall, it's affected by wind, and it's of course affected by what we call episodic weather events. So that can mean very heavy thunderstorms, which may suddenly become more prevalent than they were 10 years ago. So it's a very much more difficult and volatile environment for producing in. That's one side of the coin. Where we can produce different commodities is actually changing around the planet. And that's very difficult for producers who invest. Another side of that does indeed come back to insurance and investment. Insurers are upping their premiums in certain parts of the world because climate change is making some parts of the world riskier to produce in. And investors like BlackRock are increasingly looking at the risk profile of different places in relation to sustainability before deciding whether or not to invest. So it's important for producers looking for investment to actually be looking at their sustainability profile. The other side of the equation is in terms of horticulture as a contributor to climate change, because unfortunately horticulture, flower growing and so forth does have environmental footprints. For example, you can find carbon footprints throughout the supply chain, all the way from the nursery and seed right through to retail and to the consumer and what the consumer does with their products when they finish with them. All the way along that chain, there are impacts in terms of carbon. There are also impacts, of course, in terms of water footprints. And many of the areas of the world that produce flowers do have issues with water supply. Okay, and that's a very significant issue again. And if we look at some of the work that's been done on the flower industry, and there actually isn't that much of it scientifically, some of the research is quite alarming in terms of how big the carbon footprints are of cut flowers. But what's interesting is that cut flowers in Kenya, grown in the outdoors with using sunlight as the heating, actually have very similar carbon footprints to Dutch roses, which are grown in greenhouses, because the heating and cooling we heard about earlier, all using energy, very high carbon footprint. And when you compare flowers' carbon footprint to other commodities, it's a very, very high footprint. And if you look at water usage, again, flowers while being produced require a lot of water. And this does produce one alarming question. Are cut flowers and potted plants essential goods? Now, I'm sure everybody on this call throws up their hands immediately and goes, of course they are, because we produce them, people need them. But what we saw in the early stages of COVID, when there were issues with shortages of retail space, in terms of shortages of logistics, and big decisions are having to be made about what goods could actually be got into shops, some governments decided that flowers were not essential. This happened in France. There was certainly some debate in the UK, and we had this discussion really, what things do, when the chips are down, what do people really need? What is essential for human life? And in some countries, cut flowers ended up on the wrong side of the line, if you like, for a while. Now, obviously, that's not likely to happen again through COVID, but if climate change impacts continue to increase and governments have to make decisions in order to reduce carbon footprints, well, if cut flowers and potted plants and so forth have high carbon footprints, they may well find that they're not looked upon so favorably in terms of their essentialness for human life, in effect. So it is an issue that needs considering from that perspective. What else has changed in recent times, and this goes back to the certification question we had earlier, is that there's a lot more pressure on supply chains, particularly within Europe, in terms of making sure that everything is compliant legally and in terms of environmental and social standards. Now, a lot of this has been voluntary for a long time, hence why we've had, voluntary standards and so forth. But we are now seeing more legislation coming through that is actually making it law for retailers in particular to be taking a view on what is going on down their supply chains and making them responsible for what happens in their supply chains, and basically leaving them legally liable potentially if there are bad practices, whether environmentally in terms of carbon footprints or in terms of, you know, poor labor working conditions and that kind of thing. And this is a big shift that all industries are going to have to take on board, and it's very important. So there is a piece of you know, a proposal going through the European Commission at the moment that is actually looking at this issue. So what we have seen in horticulture in recent years has been a surge of sustainability initiatives led by organisations, I'm glad to say, like the AIPH and the Green Cities Initiative. Over in England, Britain, we've got the Horticultural Trades Association Sustainability Roadmap. We've got the Royal Horticultural Society in the UK has recently published a sustainability strategy. There's lots and lots of things going on. And just in relation to the question that was just asked about what certifications a producer may need to have, I'd refer you to the Floriculture Sustainability Initiative website, which does have a list of certifications that are accepted by the majority of European retailers, and that's a very good starting point for understanding more about those particular demands. And we are seeing an increase in demands from retailers and other parts of the industry to have certifications and standards, and these are moving away as well from a compliance basis. They're looking more at an integrated perspective of people, planet and profit, and trying to reduce negative footprints. And there's also, I might add, a scheme under development at the moment in terms of products that are harvested from the wild, because so far those kind of products, green foliage and so forth, do not come under any of those schemes, and that's a big risk for the companies that export them and the retailers that sell them. To help all of this, we are now seeing a lot of science and research becoming into the equation. So we've got life cycle analysis occurring. There's the Horti Footprint calculator that has just been developed and released through a collaboration between a number of the organizations listed on the PowerPoint. And this is really, really important, because what this allows everybody to do is to see, well, where are the problems? You know, if we don't understand where the problems are in terms of water usage or heating usage or flying products around, we can't do anything about it. And we have a quick example here of from this very bit of research that that was undertaken as part of the development of the Horti Footprint, showing environmental hotspots in cut flower production. And this is really interesting. Now, it obviously all looks fairly complicated on here with lots of symbols and acronyms and heaven knows what else. But let's just concentrate on colours. Whenever anything is coloured in red, it tends to be a bad thing. When it's green, it means don't worry too much. So looking at the top left table, we can see that on the analysis that's undertaken in this research, they've shown that with cut flowers, there are real issues around climate change impacts and resource use, particularly in terms of fossil fuels. And their deeper research revealed that these problems relate to cargo planes, use of lorries, use of fertilizers during cultivation, and so forth, and also, of course, heating and cooling of product throughout the supply chain. Now, this kind of very detailed research is increasingly important and will play a much bigger role in the industry going forward. Other work that's been undertaken in terms of reducing footprints, some really great stuff has been going on. So one was done in the UK with Kenyan partners during COVID-19. COVID, as we all know, has disrupted, particularly in the early days, cut flower supply chains, when aeroplanes basically weren't flying or weren't flying very much, and alternatives needed to be developed in order for goods to be got from Ethiopia, Kenya, and so forth. So there was a big project run with support from the UK government, looking at sea freight, not just looking at sea freight as an emergency option, but how could sea freight play a role in the future? And through the research they did through that, they found they could maintain stem quality and reduce carbon emissions by 84 to 95%. And as a result of that project, they reckon there's going to be an increase in usage of sea freight across the world in the flower industry, which will save a lot of money for those exporters and importers, which is also interesting. Wild foliage, I mentioned, yes, we've got a project on the go at the moment, which I'm involved in. I looked up the data. Apparently Turkey exports around about $11.2 million worth of material that is classified as wild foliage, which is obviously fairly significant. But all of this needs to be coming under some form of assurance certification in the future. But there's a positive side to wild harvested product, because of course stuff that grows in the wild has a very low carbon footprint, because you're not covering it in any chemicals, you're not having to water it, and it maintains the local biodiversity. So it's quite interesting as a part of the industry that's rarely talked about, and yet it's a very interesting side with some positive aspects. But we do need to work on this to ensure that the production is better assured going forward, or retailers will be scared of taking product that doesn't have an assurance that's taken from the wild. So for folk in the industry, I think in terms of sustainability, there's a lot of challenges. You know, the law is coming into effect around a lot of this, particularly in Europe. Retailers are making demands because they want to reduce their risk profiles. I think the cut flower industry is behind some other industries with all of this, but is trying to catch up very, very fast. So to move things forward, yeah, there's got to be some urgent action, and that is going to require some risk taking in terms of initiatives. Collaboration is absolutely critical. Sustainability should never be a point of competition, because at the end of the day, it's about the survival of all of us and our industries, our livelihoods on this planet. We need collaboration and information sharing. But we need rigor. We've got to get beyond greenwash, and we've got to look for holistic approaches that will really take things forward and shift the dial in the future. And of course, in terms of flowers and plants, well, the green growth we often hear about from governments, we've all got to pursue green growth. And I can't think of any better form of green growth than the stuff that you guys are involved in your daily lives, growing plants. You know, plants have make great contributions to our quality of life. And if you manage the industry well, you can have great positive impacts on the environment. And I'll just close by quickly saying that all being well, there'll be a sustainable floriculture workshop held for a couple of days in Holland in September 2020. Please watch this space, as it were, for further information about that. I'm hoping AIPH will be involved. Ron has already committed to assisting me with promoting that particular event. We'll be bringing people together from across the sector to talk about how the industry can take its learning so far and really drive for a truly sustainable future. And also, if anybody wants to learn more about sustainability, there's a link there to a course that I was involved in developing with people in the horticultural sector in South Africa and one or two UK retailers as well. So please have a look at that if you're interested in learning more. Okay, thank you very much.
David, thank you very much for that presentation, and it fits together very well with finding as well the importance of this topic into the future. So I'm going to invite the other speakers as well to come back in, so please stay on, David, and the others can put their cameras on. Today we've been fortunate enough to have an impressive lineup of speakers telling us about their experiences in the Turkish market. The trends, the most popular products, and the impact of COVID and the Russia-Ukraine war have had, will continue to have on this important segment of our global ornamental horticulture industry. The president of Turkish Flowers rightly highlights why Turkey is such a significant horticultural hub for a rapidly expanding cut flowers, plants and landscaping market. Mr. Sakarya has shown us that Turkish flowers are more than carnations alone, and that Turkey is also an important source of less conventional quality flowers and plants. At the same time, Mr. Shaffi has explained how Turkey compares to its Mediterranean neighbours, Spain and Italy, in terms of sold products, prices and the auction. And thank you to the importer and exporter, Mr. de Buck. We now know much more about Turkey as a homeland for a sizable production of cut flowers and the many opportunities and challenges of sourcing flowers here. So Turkey is a horticultural powerhouse with world-class, high-quality flowers, a benign climate and good soils, counter-seasonal supply opportunities, has a young, skilled and dynamic workforce, and a strong entrepreneurial spirit. However, there is still work to do regarding sustainability, transparent pricing, maybe plant breeders' rights and logistics. Dr. David Bek, he clarified why sustainability matters so much and how Turkey can benefit from good flowers and plants for the planet and its people. and there is no global flower trade without flowers from Turkey. But also there are no Turkish flowers without well-oiled logistics, just-in-time delivery and good buyer-seller relations. So please do have a look at the presentations, which each of the panelists have shown. You can go and find that on the handouts link on the option box on the side. And even though there's only a little bit of time left, I do want to conclude today's session with a few questions. And if we can't ask all of your questions, if you've asked some, don't worry, we'll try to get the presenters to respond to them afterwards as well. We have a question here. Can someone please comment about plant breeders' rights enforcement in Turkey? And it says we hear about illegal propagation. Does anyone like to comment on whether they feel that is an issue and how it's being tackled in Turkey? Maybe Umut?
Sorry, there was a connection issue. Could you please repeat the question again?
Yes, sure. On plant breeders' rights, is this an issue in Turkey? If there is concerns about illegal propagation, is that a real concern, or what is being done to deal with this issue?
We have the legal issues, and it can be very adapted to the European regulations. But of course, I cannot say that 100% it is under control, because there is a gray area where the producers are self-declaration about their number of the units that they are producing. But it is well protected by the central government and the legal institutions, and it's likewise everywhere, I guess, because when you are, especially for exporting your plants which are obliged to the royalty, so you have to declare all the custom issues with the papers, and you have to get the young plants from the original breeder. So you have an agreement with the original breeder, and you have the rights, how many units and how can you declare. But it is, if there will be any, yes, we faced some issues in the past, some of the road companies, but they follow up the legal procedures and they can get the conclusion, and they can find and they can get their positive results after the issue. Yeah, but yes, it can be, but it's not a major issue. Okay. It's not a major issue.
No. Okay. Okay. Good. Thank you. There is a comment on here that we also need more digital information, like a clock transaction message or EDI with the ECT message. You have the complete purchasing information from the seller in your system within 1 minute, quantities, product specifications, price, and inclusive price. Maybe this is one for Mr. Shaffi. Do you want to comment on this?
Yes. I think for Holland we have a nice system, what we call it February day and February site. February day, and in February day you have there, yeah, you have to get an you can get there a lot of information about prices and about the daily things what happened to your product. This is available in our system. Just for, but yeah, this is only for the grower. The work was for Holland. Is not available for the grower without our system, and that is I think most of the grower work was us. He knows the system.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you. I think David, sustainability came up even before you started to speak on a number of areas, and it's clear that this is a significant factor for all products into the future, and cut flowers are not an exception of that. From the statistics you showed showing carbon footprint of flowers from Kenya versus those produced in Europe, for example, it shows quite a favourable result for products which are grown outside of Europe. Do you feel that Turkey maybe has a sustainability advantage from the carbon footprint point of view in supplying the European market?
Yes, I mean it looks that way in many ways, and I think that's something that once that it would be very wise, I think, for the industry in Turkey to be proactive and to be using the Horti footprint calculator system to actually do some analysis and find out where the industry stands, and how different supply chains from Turkey actually have, what their footprints are. Because once you've got the information and you understand which parts of the supply chain, have bigger impacts and which have lower impacts, you can start then to manage what's going on and try and reduce those footprints as much as possible. Because if you can be better than the global standards, then that obviously puts you in a very favorable position, particularly with retailer markets, because retailers want to have good stories to sell to their consumers. And if you can show that flowers from Turkey have got, improved footprints compared with other parts of the world, then that's definitely a story to tell. But you've got to get the stats to back that up, which means getting the science done. But now that the calculator is in place, that can actually be carried out.
Okay, so thank you. That's a good suggestion for the association here, maybe to review that from the industry and to put in place a sustainability strategy for the future, because potentially this country well positioned to provide sustainable product into the future if it addresses those issues. Mr. De Buck, I mean, do you think that there is enough being done to raise the profile of product from Turkey? Could Royal Flora Holland do more about this? Should the Turkish industry be doing more? What should be the key messages they should be shouting out, do you think?
I think the main thing, it's very important that the growers have to know how they can get the best prices of the products. And like I told before, it can be in the logistic that they have to send things by airplane in the time that the flowers are in a very good price, because then they get better prices. And I think if you have a good price for your product, you are very motivated to develop more and more. That is very important, I think.
Yeah. Okay, good. Well,
sorry.
Yes.
Of course, we can help the grower also with choosing which kind of product, what he can get also good price for it. And we have a special team what he can also guide the growers to find out which kind of flower he can grow, and give them also idea about the prices. What I said to you, I think we can get to the story for the last 3 years or 5 years. Is we have availability in our administrations. This, I think, Flora Holland can also play a game to guide the growers to get the right crop to grow.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Well, time has run out on this webinar, but I want to really thank you because for your contributions. And actually, I felt this is quite a exciting webinar to do, really, because it really shows a country that has genuine opportunity right now and many opportunities. So it has the opportunity to broaden its range of products, and by progressing more in sustainability certification, it could open up new markets with more, a bit more interaction and discussion with the marketplace in Europe. There could be more sharing and openness about prices, which will stimulate production decisions into the future. There is the opportunity to use existing air freight opportunities for product out of the main season for Europe to supply a demand where the prices are strong already. And and to establish themselves as sustainable producers for the future. So I think with the help of a strong organisation, as we have with Turkish flowers, then this is a great opportunity for this sector to develop. And any buyers from across the world should be looking quite favourably now at the opportunities from Turkey and how they can support the development of this supply. So it seems to tick many boxes, and I feel that's exciting as someone who sits overlooking many different things internationally for a country like Turkey. So I'd like to thank all of you for joining the discussion today, and thank you to Turkish Flowers as well, the Ornamental Plants and Product Exporters Union, for supporting this event. Please do sign up as well for Floriculture International, our free magazine, where you can read up even more details and follow up on this. And if you have other questions, send them to us. We'll try and get answers to you. So thanks again to Mr. Ismail Yilmaz, President of the Association, Mr. Umut Sakarya, Mr. Azzam Shaffi, Mr. Tahsin de Buck, Mr. Dr. David Bek, and also to Rene, who has been busy behind the scenes making sure all this fits together. Thanks to Ron van der Ploeg, editor of FCI, for pulling the panel together. And thank you for all of you who have listened in and watched today. And I hope you have enjoyed it. And I wish you a great rest of your day. And please don't waste any time. Come to Turkey and see for yourself what it can offer. Thank you.
Thank you.